He got me pregnant for convenience and disappeared in the worst moment of my life. The day my son was born, the silence in that hospital room was louder than any cry. I was alone in that cold room, legs wide open, contractions cutting through me like knives, and no hand to hold mine. With every scream I let out, I waited to hear the door open. I waited to see him standing there. The man who said he loved me. But he never came. He knew the date. He knew the hospital. He knew I was scared. And still, he left me. The nurse asked if I wanted to call someone. I lied. I said he was on his way. I still believed. But the truth is, he had already walked away. And not just from the hospital. He ran away from our life. And what I found out later, the real reason why he came into my life, made me question if I was ever truly loved. The man who made me believe again. I met him in a coffee shop, like something out of a movie. He spilled his coffee on the floor, apologized, smiled, and that's how it started. The next day, he came back to the same place. By the third day, he already knew my name. On the fourth, he asked me out for dinner. I was exhausted, tired of life, of work, of making the same mistakes over and over. And he was different. Or at least he seemed to be. He listened. Really listened. He knew exactly what made me laugh. And exactly what made me forget. In less than a month, he knew more about me than most people ever had. And before I realized it, he was sleeping at my place, making coffee in the mornings, calling me baby. He was sweet, intense, almost too perfect, but every kind of perfection hides its cracks. And there was one thing he said, just a silly comment at the time, that now, looking back, I'd give anything to have truly noticed. The first crack. I never wanted to be a dad, you know. He said it while laughing, his head resting on my lap, tracing circles on my belly with his fingers. I was 4 months pregnant. But you're gonna change that in me, he added, looking at me like everything was fine. I laughed too, pretended it didn't hurt, pretended I didn't feel the weight of his words. He always had those strange little comments, like someone slipping in the truth, wrapped in a smile. And I always had this talent of ignoring what hurts when love seems stronger. As the pregnancy moved forward, he still seemed present, but something in his eyes had changed. He came home late, got distracted easily, answered texts with his phone face down. I'd ask if everything was okay. He'd say he was tired, that he was working hard for both of us. I wanted to believe him. And with every new red flag, I held tighter to the dream of a family. Until the day he didn't come home, and his phone kept ringing and ringing. But no one ever answered. The silence that screamed. That night, I walked around the house like he was about to walk through the door any second. I opened the fridge, closed it, turned on the TV, turned it off, looked out the window, called him again, and again, and again. His phone rang, but no one picked up. My heart whispered, something's wrong. But my head kept saying, don't panic. He'll be back. I fell asleep on the couch, phone in hand. Woke up to a notification. Your rent is overdue. Final warning. His name was on the lease. He told me he had paid it. I rushed to the bank. Nothing was paid. I called his mom. Raphael? I haven't heard anything, sweetie. I called his job. Raphael quit 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks? I was 7 months pregnant, and he had already left. He just forgot to tell me. But the part that hurt the most was looking in the mirror and realizing he didn't run that night. He'd been running for a long time. I just didn't want to see it. Trying to survive with half of me. In the days that followed, I tried to function, tried to eat, tried to sleep, tried to think. But everything felt like a silent movie. Sometimes I still believed he'd come back, that this was all a misunderstanding, a crisis, a moment of madness. I looked at his clothes still folded in the drawer, at the sneakers he left by the door, at the coffee cup with his fingerprints still on it. And I kept asking myself, how does someone leave without even looking back? I started selling things from the house, took a part-time job at a small store down the street, wore flip-flops in the cold because I couldn't afford new shoes. The baby kicked, and I cried. Not because of Raphael, but because that baby deserved more. Deserved a world that wasn't built on broken promises and carefully told lies. Until one day, while trying to log into my old email, I found a forgotten folder with his documents inside. Spreadsheets, saved chats, screenshots. And in there, I found something he never thought I'd see. Something that didn't just explain why he left. It proved he never planned to stay. The truth that broke me and saved me. In the middle of that forgotten folder, there was a file named Personal Agreement, 2023. I opened it. And there it was. My full name, my address, my photos. And next to it, a number, or $20,000 followed by a note. Pregnancy confirmed. Property approved. I froze. I thought it had to be some kind of sick joke. But the more I read, the more it made sense. He had made a deal with a woman, a real estate agent. Used our relationship to prove he was stable, that he was expecting a child, to get a mortgage approved, in her name. He needed someone with a clean credit score. He needed a woman with too much heart and too few questions. And I was perfect for that. I was the living proof of his lie. And once the bank released the funds, he vanished, left me with a child growing inside me and a hole in my chest. But in that moment, between despair and humiliation, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Anger. And it was with that anger that I started to rebuild myself, the silence that undid me. I never imagined it was possible to feel that much pain and still keep breathing. People kept saying, "You're so strong." But I didn't want to be strong. I just didn't want to be there. The nights felt endless, and my room got smaller every time the crying started. Baby cries. And mine. Two voices calling out for something no one was going to bring. One night, I looked at the crib and thought, will he grow up feeling this emptiness too? I didn't want my son to inherit my pain. But how do you give love when you were used like an object? How do you smile at a baby when his father walked away with your dignity? I thought about running. Seriously. Leaving everything behind. Disappearing with my son. Becoming just another nameless face in some forgotten city. I even thought of worse things. But then, he cried. And in the middle of that night, with shaking hands, I picked him up. And he looked at me. Not like someone who needed me, but like someone who believed in me. In his eyes, there was no judgment, only trust, only life, only love. And it was right there, between tears and a bottle, that I realized that man left me alone, but he also left me free. And the baby he tried to use was the one who saved me. I didn't go back to who I was. I became someone else. Today, when I look in the mirror, I still see the scars. Not on my face, not on my body, but in my eyes. The eyes of someone who believed too much, trusted too much, loved too much, and still got left behind. But I also see something else. A strength I never knew I had, because he didn't destroy me. I gave myself fully to someone who only wanted a piece. And even so, I survived. I rebuilt myself with little, sleeping little, screaming on the inside, taking care of someone while no one was taking care of me. I became a mother, a woman, a warrior, in silence. No applause, no one holding my hand. But I stood up. And now, when my son looks at me with that toothless smile, I understand. He wasn't just a gift. He was my new beginning. And if I could look into the eyes of the woman I used to be, the one who waited for someone who never came back, I'd tell her, "You didn't lose a man. You got rid of a lie." And maybe, if you're listening right now, and you're on the ground, feeling like no one sees your pain, hear me. You're not invisible. You're just silent right now, because you're preparing to be reborn. And you will, just like I did. Not to be the same, but to become everything he tried to destroy. This story could have been mine alone, but I know there are so many women out there carrying the same scars from empty promises.